Hi, this is Juliet Depagnier, and I will present on Grammar Key number 7, and this is articles, definite and indefinite articles. Today's presentation will consist of explaining an explanation of articles, what they are, when we use them, and when we don't use them. We'll also look at native language interference, suggested techniques for teaching, and some exercises to practice article use from our workbooks. So what are articles? We have two types of articles. They are indefinite articles, which consist of the use of a and an. And we have definite articles, or definite article, which is the use of the. First, we're going to talk about using indefinite articles and an. They are used before singular count nouns that are not specific and they're being mentioned for the first time. Over to the right, I have a nice table with the rules and examples. There's 3 rules that we have for indefinite articles. The first is using indefinite articles before a noun or an adjective that begins with a consonant sound. This is definitely something that your English learners should know, or else they'll have to refer to a list at all times. What is a consonant and what is a vowel in order to understand using the indefinite articles and an. So this first rule is for the consonant sound, and we would use a. We use before the consonant sound. For example, a feather, a gray feather. And the second rule is using an before a noun or an adjective that begins with a vowel sound. And the examples given are an idea, an absurd idea. And the third rule that is listed is using the indefinite articles with words that begin with H and U. Now these tend to be potential problems for ELL learners. And one of these examples is a hat, an hour. And hat begins with a consonant sound, h, but hour begins with a vowel sound because the H is silent. So after, this is definitely going to take some time for your learner to acquire this one rule. Another example is with the U or the a university, an umbrella. University begins with the consonant sound y, but umbrella begins with a vowel sound. We use a or an depending on the sound of the word, not the spelling. So you have to know the sound of the word before you can figure out if you need a or an. Let's move on now to the definite article, the. Now, I won't go through all 8 of the rules that are listed, but I will point out the ones that I think are seeming to be the most important at this point for English language learners. Number 1 rule is use the when you're talking about something specific. Now they give you examples that give you a general sentence. All of us have an umbrella. And then there's a specific one. The umbrella next to the door is not mine. So you can see how to use the. It's very specific. Moving on to number 2, use the when the speaker and the listener are talking about the same specific item. Now this just builds on to number 1, in that you need to be very specific when using the. It won't be used, for example, in that first line, the general one, every kitchen has a refrigerator. That is not specific, it's very general. However, they give this specific example as, William, don't forget to close the refrigerator. So they're talking about a particular refrigerator. Number 3, I think it builds on to number 1 and number 2, using the for the second and all other references. So in the first reference, they talk about a new computer. In the second reference, they tell us that this computer lets us access the internet really quickly. So they're still speaking specifically about a computer from the first reference. Now moving down to rule number 5, using the for names of countries that look plural, including countries that end in S or have the words United, Union, Republic, or Kingdom in their name. And they give a nice list of the various countries that do have the, with an S at the end, or include some of those keywords. For example, the Philippines has an S on the end, the Netherlands have an S, the United Kingdom has the in front because of United, as well as Kingdom of Saudi Arabia needs the in front because of the use of kingdom. Now, bodies of water also need the in front. For example, the Mississippi River, the Pacific Ocean. Also, you need to use the with geographic locations. The equator, the Middle East, the South. Now, along with using indefinite and definite articles, there are occasions when you do not require articles before a noun. Now, when you want to talk about a category or group in general, no article is used. For example, cats can be great pets. Since this is a general statement about cats, no article is necessary. However, if you say cats in the pet store are expensive, you need to add an article, the. And also another rule with no articles being used is if it's an abstract noun such as feelings or ideas. Now there's an example that gives us a statement saying, a person's future success depends on the education. Now, education is not very specific, right? So we don't need to have the education in front. The correct way of saying it is a person's future success depends on education. And another abstract noun is virtue. And the patience, or the patience, is a virtue. That's an abstract, the patiences. So we correct that by saying patience is a virtue. Now there's native language interference, and among those speakers that do not have any articles in their native language. And those languages happen to be Chinese, Japanese, Malay, Polish, Thai, Vietnamese, and Russian speakers. And in their native language, they would simply say, I have cat and 2 dogs. If you get pet, you will be happy. I think the best pet is cat because it can be very affectionate. Now you see here, each of these 3 examples, they've omitted articles because for them, no such thing exists in their native tongue. Also, some native speakers only have definite articles, and those would be Arabic speakers. Now they use definite articles with abstract nouns and when referring to the whole group. For example, for them it's correct to say, I am afraid of the spiders. Instead of, for us English speakers, we would say, I am afraid of spiders. They add that definite article in front of the group of spiders, all spiders. Now, French and Spanish is very similar to English in that they have indefinite and definite articles. However, they are similar to Arabic in that they use definite articles when referring to whole groups, as well as when referring to abstract nouns. They also use indefinite articles are not used when talking about professions. And something that also you need to be aware of is that French and Spanish speakers have singular and plural, definite and indefinite articles. So you may see errors, and if you're aware of this will help you a lot in understanding why these speakers are making the errors they do. Now, I simply wanted to run a script and find out the frequency of articles, of the most used articles. And lo and behold, it's the, and a, and follow suit. And you can see that is definitely the most frequently used of the articles. So no surprise there. The articles. Now, ways to teach. I like to use a lot of songs for introduction of lessons and materials. And I found this great fun song that I think the students in elementary like. That's my main teaching group is elementary. So I would introduce with a song, specifically this is for indefinite articles. And and going back to the corpus that I ran on the articles, I was thinking if the is so heavily used, can we not just start out with teaching the? I think they had just mentioned in the book using and activities for that initially, but I would think I'd start out and just say the and just be very specific. And specific using realia, possibly going around my classroom, picking up things, and we could say, what is this? The, in front of everything. The book, here's the pencil, and keep holding things and showing them that we're talking specifically about things. So using the classroom or going on a school walk, and then also pointing out specific things that we could use the for. And then also, we could do the same thing with and an. However, I'd like to keep the visual up front and have a listing of those letters that begin with consonants and with vowels so that students can refer to that in helping to decide whether they should use an or an an. And I think most of what I'm using here is for the definite beginner and I don't know, maybe a little bit intermediate level. When it gets a little bit difficult, then I'm going to partner them up and we can look at, English paragraphs and identify the various articles and then determine why this indefinite or definite articles are being used. So I'd like to then get their output as far as why they think we have to use an or an or a the. And then we could follow up any of these grammar writing activities, any of these activities with something to write, whether it be just a picture for the students to say, here's a book, now write the book, or maybe give full sentences for the more advanced student using, specific nouns. Now, the teaching techniques from Chapter 5 that I found and would use based on what I talked about is helping students sort out and then consolidate new grammar information. And I think by just identifying what the articles are and then them producing the language and giving an explanation, definitely plays into Technique 6. Consider that potential first language interference that we determined earlier. Technique 10 is using songs, and that's one of the different techniques I applied. Break up these grammar lessons. Now, it's a lot of information, so definitely the will be a number of days before introducing a and then using an. Definitely, these are not combined. Finding grammar points in non-ELL materials, and you could definitely search out and identify articles in English paragraphs or literature. And then the end activity was using guided grammar writing activities to see the connection. And that's for the students to identify these different articles and then apply it to their writing. Now, there were a number of exercises in our workbook that you can refer to. I thought number 3.7.5, definite article the, was a good one because it's kind of backwards in that you look at the rule and then you give an example for it. And then finding 3.7.7, find an error, ELL error on each phrase. So understanding why the ELL error occurs and correcting it. And then I like 3.7.9 because you can find the errors and they tell you there's 8. So that's always helpful in the student writing regarding article use. Here are my references. Please feel free. I look forward to receiving your feedback on the discussion board, and definitely leave me any questions if you have any. Thanks so much.